Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is LionHeartZ and we are back for our third day of Blast Bounty Season 1 coverage. Today we had 4 more very exciting matches. We had the beginning of the Electronic Regime in Virtus Pro taking on the New Look Complexity. We followed it up with a retooled Eternal Fire taking on Fluxo. We then had the exciting debut of Bubblesj with Faze Clan, and we end the day with the much anticipated matchup between the Imperial female team versus NAVI. There was a lot of exciting Counter-Strike play today. Unfortunately, some of it is mired in controversy, something we will be getting into, but I'm here to break it all down for you. So if you enjoy these recaps, make sure you take a second and leave a like, leave a comment down below, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, because it helps out immensely in the YouTube algorithm. And before we get started, I would like to thank today's sponsor. That's right, this video was sponsored by Skin Club. They're one of the most popular case opening sites in the scene with over 100 custom cases backed by its provably fair system. You can open cases individually or play against other users in case battles, whether there's against other users on the site, your own friends, or privately with bots if solo queuing isn't just a necessity, but a lifestyle. But that's not all. Skin Club also runs monthly events with free rewards to earn, free daily cases for a little extra Skrilla on top, and if you don't like what you got, you can try and upgrade to something else unless you are me specifically. If you want to play on Skin Club, you can do so at the top link in the description and get a 7% deposit bonus when you do so by topping off your account with crypto, credit card, or skins from your inventory. Please gamble responsibly and make sure you are over 18 and live in a country or jurisdiction that does not restrict gambling. Never gamble to make a profit and only play with money you are okay losing. Gambling can be a serious addiction, and if you or a loved one are suffering in the US or Canada, you can reach out toll-free to 1-800-GAMBLER to receive help. Be safe and well, and thank you to Skin Club for sponsoring this video. Okay, so normally when I make these recaps, I go about the games in a chronological order. I start with the first game played, I end with the last game played, because I think it adds a nice flow to the videos. But I'm also not an idiot. I understand how YouTube watch time works. I know that the vast majority of people who watch these videos do not watch them all the way through, so I'm going to switch things up. I want to talk about NAVI versus Imperial female first, because I feel it is important to talk about the unfortunate controversy surrounding this match. Now, I wish I could just sit here and talk about the Counter-Strike that was played in the server, as I think there's a lot of interesting stuff to do there first, but I think all of that has been overshadowed by the reactions and also the situation that unfolded that created this matchup in the first place. The only reason that Imperial FE was able to get into this tournament and have a chance to play NAVI in this format is because in the female circuit, they were the best team. And because there is no delineation in Valve between the female and the male circuit, they accrued Valve ranking points from those matches in the female-only circuit, giving them quite a high ranking at the end of December coming into the new year. So, because all slots are based on Valve ranking now, they got the invite over other teams in the scene. So, there's been a rather large reaction saying that Imperial FE shouldn't be there, that this was just kind of a marketing and a show match to push them into somewhere they shouldn't be, and that this was needlessly taking a slot away from a team that could be quote-unquote competitive within this tournament. I think there are many problems with that, but first off, I want to talk about the fact that the only reason we have a female-only circuit is because the opportunities for women in Counter-Strike have been overall restricted because of how this community treats women in general. Counter-Strike is a game with a community that has been largely male-centric since its inception, so it's always had a much smaller female population by percentage. And when you consider that to be a professional player, you're already the smallest subsection of the broader player base, then it makes sense that there are very few women who rise to the top to be eligible to play at the pro level. There are no physical barriers, there are no rules saying that women can't play on teams like NAVI, G2, or Faze, but when you consider that 1, it's already drawing from a smaller population than the vast majority of the player base, and then 2, the routine harassment and vitriol that women have to deal with as a byproduct of the male-centric circles that run around in Counter-Strike, it makes sense that things have turned out this way. We have not fostered an environment for women in the CS space to grow at the same rate the rest of the audience has. In a vacuum, there is nothing holding back a woman from being good enough to play at the top level of Counter-Strike. I know there are people who perpetuate that men may have distinct advantages at playing pro Counter-Strike, be it faster reaction times or what have you, but based on just a cursory Google search, and take this with a pinch of salt as I'm not an expert in these fields, while yes, on average there tends to be a discrepancy between male and female reaction times, those tended to go down as more women got involved in sports and athletics. The gap seems to be much greater between people who are unfit and sedentary versus people who live an active physical lifestyle. So, in the realm of pro athletes, While yes, someone like a Serena Williams will never compare to somebody like LeBron James in terms of physical attributes and strength when it comes to playing fucking video games, I do believe that whatever advantages that the males on average may have are not substantial to prohibit women from rising to the top. It is my opinion that the reason that we haven't seen it so far is because of the structural issues allowing women to be able to compete at that level and sample size. So, Imperial FE, the biggest women's team with the best female player in the world in Anna, getting to play NAVI, the best team last year, is a great way to highlight the fact that women can play. This will encourage more people to come into the scene who otherwise wouldn't, and that can make the scene better overall because we want the most amount of people playing and enjoying Counter-Strike. And yes, I totally acknowledge that most of the corporate interest in highlighting Imperial FE in a game like this is because they want the free brownie points from people on Twitter. I understand that corporations are cynical and will use efforts to help marginalized people as a shield to make more profits. I totally get that. I also believe that the players genuinely want to be able to play against each other. And the only way for things to integrate and for the concept of the female circuit to go away and for there just to be the Counter-Strike circuit where no matter who you are, where you come from, if you're good enough, you can hang, is to give people more opportunities. In terms of the Counter-Strike that was played in the server by Imperial, yes, Anna had a bad series. However, they still had good rounds against NAVI. These weren't 13-0 blowouts. That is worthwhile to point out. Imperial, do you know what they played like? They played like a tier 2 or 3 team. And the only way for them to get better is to have more opportunities to play better competition. This whole thing is fucking ridiculous. And if you don't believe the real issues that women's players are dealing with in the community, please go read the HOTV thread about this game. Go look at the fucking misogyny that's right there. Dumb fucks like Chris J, who have been fucking out of the game and retired for years, don't know what the fuck they're talking about, and instead tweet out the most bad faith interpretations of people like Zaz's interview. He's part of the problem. He's part of the reason why this couldn't have been just another Counter-Strike match. And instead, he should keep on focusing on tweeting into the void about how the skull shape of foreigners means they can't be truly Danish. Fuck you, Chris J. Sorry to start off this video with such a heavy topic. I wish, again, I could just focus on the Counter-Strike, but it's literally undivorceable. And that is part of the record. Anyways, with that, we can move on to the rest of the games for today and maybe talk about some Counter-Strike because that's actually what my job is supposed to be. And I'm sure the next series will feature a team that doesn't actually spike my blood pressure and we can relax for the rest of the video. And oh my god, Electronic's right behind me, isn't he? Yep, we had the debut of the new look for both Virtus Pro and Complexity today, and it was a close 2-game affair where Virtus Pro did take the win in the end. And honestly, I thought Complexity looked a lot better than I thought they would. Nyx and Sixy, I think, are perfectly fine additions to the team. You're never going to replace the output of Bubblesj, that's just not practical. But for what they've managed to build, I'm actually not mad at it. Because again, I think JT is a perfectly fine in-game leader. Halzerk and Grimm can have their moments. This team did not look nearly as destitute as I feared it would. In fact, maybe there's potential for Grimm to finally take a step forward, which is something we've been waiting for many years. For Virtus Pro, my tirades against this team are well documented, and with James gone, I do think there is a future now for this lineup. However, I do think they were 1 step forward and 2 steps back, because now Electronic has the reins of power once again. He is the leader at the forefront, and I think Virtus Pro would be so much better if they simply had Bubblesj for Electronic and had a real system. The firepower on the team is frankly absurd on paper. Fluxo is going to be one of the best riflers in the world as long as he continues to develop. In fact, hot take, I think Fluxo will be a top 20 player this year. His eye test looks that good, and he was incredible in this debut series on both maps. Fame, Flit, these guys have been good. Fame especially was great alongside Fluxo, and Icy was someone who I thought was going to do really good with Cloud9 before that roster self-destructed. So I think getting him in as an opper, is he going to be better than James at his peak? Probably not, but James wasn't at his peak last year. So guess what? I think Icy will be a better fit for this team. What's going to hold them back is the fucking coin! Like, listen, unless Electronic has a come-to-Jesus moment, which I think will be pretty hard considering James just left the roster, I don't think he's going to develop into a winning top 10 potential in-game leader, which is what the firepower on this team could lead Virtus.pro to. So I feel like no matter what, we're at a stopgap. I don't think Electronic will be the right fit. Now, could he prove me wrong? I think that's possible. Let's all remember, when Apex first started out as an IGL, he was not very good at it. And now Apex has been one of the best IGLs in the scene for years. Yes, he has ZywOo, so I know not a perfect comparison, but at the same time, he has developed into a good leader. He developed into a good strat caller. It took time, and those first couple of years were not that great. In terms of the Counter-Strike that was played, on both maps, what I really liked from Virtus.pro was the aggression that Fluxo is going to bring to the table on both sides. I think it makes their T sides more dynamic, and he's going to be able to get those aggressive peaks on CT side that will make Virtus.pro less stagnant. This team was awful at the end of last year in terms of just not doing anything, and the one thing that so frustrates me is that, like on Dust 2, for example, there were still rounds on the T side where they would just run the clock for nothing in return, and it's the Virtus.pro classic. It's like a holdover of James' playbook, and I hate it, man. I feel like you have the pieces to be ultra aggressive, and you should do so. Build around Fluxo. Electronic and Fluxo should be this elite entry unit on your T sides, and thus far, I'm not seeing that teamwork from Electronic and Fluxo. Fluxo is going on his own and getting great impact, but Electro needs to be right behind him. Ultimately, this was a highly winnable series for Complexity, but you have to give credit where credit's due. Virtus.pro, they played well enough, and Fame and Fluxo went off, especially on Train, where Fame had 27 kills and a 1.71 rating, and they were able to take the victory. I think there's hope for Virtus.pro, but it's murky. Our next matchup of the day is between Eternal Fire and Fluxo, and honestly, pretty entertaining series, all things considered. I really liked getting a thorough look at this new look Eternal Fire with Yada in place of Calyx, and I think that Fluxo are a Brazilian team that I'm frankly not very familiar with, but they had some good moments, some bad moments. In general, they didn't really seem up to the task in terms of firepower, but that's hard when Zontares is firing at all cylinders, which he usually is. Listen, Zontares is kind of an anomaly because the dude is like going to be turning 30 pretty soon, and there are still at best 4 riflers in the world that are like definitively better than him. His longevity is Nico-esque, and the fact he's still playing at this level is remarkable, and he's so good, dude. You watch him play, and his reaction time, his aim, his game sense is just fucking unreal. And it makes for some very interesting feast or famine games, because when Eternal Fire play, it's all or nothing. They're gonna fucking run it down at you, and when they're hitting, they're just gonna rip your head off around every corner. Major was getting impact, Woxic was there with the op, Wakadia was having a good time. The only player who did not show up to the server in this series, unfortunately, is the new addition. Yada had a bad first series. Just kind of how it is. Now, he wasn't detrimental to the team. In fact, most of the time, I felt like he wasn't even really getting room to operate. He wasn't just like feeding. It's just he wasn't needed because everyone else was firing at a high enough cylinder that the game was already over before he could find his impact. On Mirage, Fluxo had some sporadic success, but it seemed like every time they were starting to build momentum, Eternal Fire would quickly rip it away and put them on the back foot economically. And of course, on their T sides, Zontares is just such an elite entry that it could just be overwhelming. And when we move on to Dust 2, Major just rolled back the years and had an incredible performance. His mechanics look sharper to me than they have previously. I don't know if he's been hitting the aim trainer a lot, but it looks like he was very well warmed up for this series. His shots were hidden. He was getting good space on the margins while Zontares wreaked havoc elsewhere. And it just felt like Eternal Fire were overwhelming in this case. They won 10 straight rounds, 8 straight to close out the first half, won the pistol in the second round thereafter on the CT side, before Fluxo could get a gun round onto the board, where they managed to put some T rounds together. You know, it's Dust 2, more of a T favored map. Once again, for the third video in a row, reference the Bible of recaps. The other team you don't play on Dust 2 besides any French team is Eternal Fire. It's their playground. It's just the map they've defined themselves on. So yeah, good, straightforward win from the Eternal Fire guys. Hopefully this is just, a rocky start for Yada. He can get more involved in the system in subsequent games and deliver on that promise he showed in Songal. Moving on, our last series in this video will be Faze taking on M80, by far one of the most entertaining series of the Blast Bounty so far, as pretty much every other game outside of 2 were 2-0 kind of blowouts. Not very interesting Counter-Strike, to be honest. But here, we got ourselves a banger. This went 3 maps. I think M80 had a lot of good upside, despite having to play with Keto as a stand-in. Watching the M80 guys, and especially Lake, just go toe-to-toe with LionHeartZ and Brokey firing on all cylinders was so entertaining to watch play out, and man, it is nice to see. Excuse me, I don't know what happened during that last take, but anyways, man, it's nice to see LionHeartZ on Faze play next to Kerrigan. I'm so happy with this signing. Now, it has not been a perfect debut. Faze looked a little rocky at points, but I'm gonna chalk that more up to Faze should never play Inferno ever again than any potential structural issues. I do think they need to figure out their CT sides a little bit more. Rain is clearly having to adjust to new positions to fit in LionHeartZ, but once they figure this shit out, if Brokey can maintain the upswing he was seeing at the major, oh yeah, baby, 2025, it's Faze Clan, boys, let's go! On Ancient, I really like how dynamic LionHeartZ was immediately slotted into this system. He adds an aggressive piece that it feels like Kerrigan hasn't had access to in quite a while. Right away, him and Brokey were so aggressive on the CT side, playing for that mid control that's so important on Ancient. They were just getting so many kills back and forth, trading around each other. I loved the way that LionHeartZ was essentially playing in the same position as Rops was, but he was just doing it with LionHearTZ's playstyle. Honestly, you look at the stats, they are comparable players in terms of impact, but they're totally different in playstyle, which is what makes this move so interesting. I was a little worried that M80 were just going to get punted out of the server because, again, they're playing with a stand-in. It's not ideal. This is an online match. It would make sense if M80 just kind of faded away and got 2-0 like a lot of the other underdog competition. But no, Lake pretty much single-handedly makes these series interesting. And dude, what a prospect he is. And I'm going to keep on harping it every time we see M80 play on this channel. Lake is the truth. He is the future. And he will be on a top team soon, and it will be awesome. I mean, this play here on the T side to get M80 into the game, where he just walks out and kills Brokey, Frozen, and LionHeartZ, just one by one, no flash support, takes all individual fights, all headshots. If I just like blocked everything off the screen and showed you this play in isolation, if not for the fact that LionHeartZ is defined by never using skins, you could believe that's LionHeartZ. Like, he plays like LionHeartZ does, and he has LionHearTZ's aim, and he's starting to have LionHearTZ's game sense. He is a scary prospect. Overall, it was clear on Ancient at least that FaZe were definitively the better team. M80 had some interesting rounds, but I'm not surprised that FaZe are going to walk away with this victory, 13-9. However, when we go to Inferno, it's much a different story. Now, I said so kind of in the beginning of this segment, but FaZe need to stop playing Inferno. Now that the train's back in the pool and Vertigo is gone, which was FaZe's previous permaban, Inferno needs to be the new permaban. Because not only do I get PTSD of all of Kerrigan's biggest blow-ups being on Inferno, you know, the Copenhagen Major and the Boston Major, but FaZe have just been bad on the map for the last like 6 months. It's their worst map by win rate, and they should just kick it to the curb, dude. There's no point in playing Inferno anymore. A lot of teams don't like playing Inferno, so fuck it. Get it out of here, bring Train in, and let's just be done with it. Because I don't know what it is, either with Romps or with LionHeartZ, FaZe have been terrible on Inferno, and I do not want to watch them blow up on Inferno anymore. Now, again, a little bit of context, LionHeartZ had a terrible start to this game. He was like 1-6 for most of the first half. That's not ideal. You would expect LionHeartZ to get a little more impact. However, I would also say that FaZe clearly don't really have good CT sets on Inferno either, and I would just rather never see them play it again. Kerrigan really wants to be an in-game leader who has like a map pool where they play everything. And that's worked sometimes, where Kerrigan's been the Gigamind and flexed the Vertigo pick sometimes in specific moments, but also, let's just call a spade a spade. Not every team is going to be elite on every map. Even Astralis had permabans. So let's just recognize that we've been terrible on Inferno and move on, because they looked absolutely lost outside of Brokey heroics on the T side. Their CT sides were that bad. And again, I don't think there's any more good proof of that than the fact we moved to Dust 2 and FaZe just annihilates M80. LionHeartZ just goes God mode throughout the entire game, and M80 doesn't look like they could win a round to save their lives. Even Kerrigan was getting involved with some great kills. He had 12 first half kills on the CT side that were very important. But LionHeartZ and Brokey, they were just awesome in this series on Dust 2. I think the new look FaZe looks awesome, and once they can figure out how to work around these CT sides, move right around to the right spots, yeah, I'm really happy with what FaZe are going to be doing. Alright guys, that's going to be it for me today. Make sure you leave a like, leave a comment down below, and subscribe to the channel if you didn't. It helps out immensely in the YouTube algorithm. Thank you to Skins Club for sponsoring this video. If you check the top link in the description, you'll get a 7% deposit bonus the next time you use the site. Make sure you gamble responsibly and safely. Thank you to Skin Club. Shout out to our channel members, Justin, Jesse, Furley, Bubblesj, Milan Berta, Dr. Cocktor, Patatas Kaftesi, and PTR. If you want to become a channel member, you can do so at the link in the description down below. For $5 a month, you can support me directly, get an exclusive community role in our Discord, as well as your name at the end of these videos, just like this. Thank you to our channel members. Make sure you follow me on Twitch as well. I was about to say like, comment, subscribe again, because I'm an idiot. But yeah, I'll see you guys soon with another video. Peace.